We all know that foreign-funded NGOs are ruining South Africa. They are destroying our electricity grid, they are destroying our education, and they are destroying the family. So, a solution to that can be found in India. Because in 2010, the Indian government passed the Foreign Contribution Act, which basically makes it illegal to receive foreign funding if you're an NGO based in India. And they managed to ban Greenpeace for a start. We can do so much more.
Now, as ladies and gentlemen, you may say, well, you guys are being a bit hyperbolic. Why would we want to do that? Let's give you some examples. Gun rights in South Africa, arguably one of the most dangerous countries in the world. Any idea who's funding the anti-gun lobby? Well, it happens to be European, Australian, and English institutions that are all non-profit. These individuals send large sums of money to South Africa and basically get them to push an agenda to make South Africa's laws replicate what they see in Europe. That obviously has detrimental impacts. The impact, namely, being on, let's say, for example, gun shops or gun dealers. You as the individual who wants to protect yourself at home. So how does this actually impact us in the larger context? Well, consider the energy industry at the moment. South Africa sits on the 7th largest quantity of natural gas in the world, which we can't frack or do anything with in the Karoo. We have sizable quantities of oil and shale gas off the coast of South Africa that frequently gets blocked. And we obviously have an aging coal fleet that, if put back into operation, could solve South Africa's energy problem. You might say, well, maybe we just need to go nuclear. Well, unfortunately, we can't, because that's also blocked by environmental agencies. Now, if you look at these environmental agencies, many of them are foreign funded by NGOs set up abroad. Typically, a lot of them may even be funded by Soros Foundation type individuals. Look at the Home Affairs Department that tried to deport all of these Zimbabwean illegal immigrants. They were stopped by a George Soros Open Foundation Society NGO. So the detrimental impacts of these NGOs on the country are well understood and well documented.
And it goes even deeper than that. The Soros Foundations fund 146 different institutions in this country, from equal education to people who take over land in the Western Cape to, preventing hijacked buildings from being returned to the city, to the rights of the landless. Basically, a lot of social problems are funded, abetted, and aided by foreign-funded NGOs. This is, of course, an indictment on ANC who allows this to happen, but fundamentally, if South Africa wants to become a sovereign nation, determine its own future, we need to stop the influence of people who don't live in this country. We're a democratic country. We vote for our government. Our government has a mandate to rule. That mandate to rule is being stopped, changed, and retarded by these foreign-funded NGOs. This cannot continue.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, you may say, okay, we understand the social, the moral, the philosophical argument. But what does it ultimately mean to the country as a whole? Well, India gives us a case study, and it shows us that these NGOs directly contribute to a significant economic loss to the country. This economic loss of 3% of GDP, that's sizable, ladies and gentlemen. That's over our police budget. Just imagine the police budget being doubled by expelling these foreign NGOs. That's significant.
And the Indians also found that a lot of these NGOs were acting on behalf of American companies who wanted to sell renewable energy, American companies who wanted to ingratiate themselves into the way agriculture works in India as well. And famously, Greta Thunberg, unfortunately, shared a toolkit of how they are going to sort of help Indian farmers fight against regulations that freed up the agricultural sector. And of course, Greta Thunberg is funded by all the usual suspects that we know of. But you can see, especially through the Greta Thunberg example, that these NGOs have an ideology. They have a plan. And that plan is to thwart the rule of governments across the world who don't want to be in Greta's good books. They want to pursue what is good for them, to alleviate poverty, especially in India, it's a big problem. And of course, for India to have a future, it cannot allow itself to be strangled by people who don't live there. South Africa should take this example, proceed with it, ban foreign-funded NGOs, and let the democratic will of the people just shine through, because that is the point of being a South African. If that is retarded by people who don't live here, we don't live in a real democracy.
You might say, okay, cool. I understand the economic prospects. I now understand the moral prospects. But really, What is this all about? Why are these NGOs doing this? I'm so glad you asked, because let's use the example of Greta Thunberg. Greta Thunberg has recently stated that her goal and her activism really has transformed from global environmental policies to kind of a Marxist idea. She wants to pursue equity. Well, Ramon, the problem with all these equitable movements that want to push Marxism is they all understand one fundamental thing. In order to push Marxism in a country, they first need to destroy the existing systems. They need a violent revolution. And so, what they are there to do is to create the grounds for a violent revolution. The violent revolution, which will obviously destroy the country and then allow the country to reform in the image of Marxist ideology. Ladies and gentlemen, this is why India has banned these people, because it does not wish to see its 4,000-year-long civilization burnt down at the whim of Marxist bullshit. They wish their civilization to remain intact so that the Indian people can remain Indian. And as South Africans, we should be thinking the same. We do not want these people in our country. We do not want them to burn down our country.
And therefore, in the name of BRICS, of which we are huge fans, we should follow what other BRICS countries have done. India banned NGOs. Russia banned NGOs. China banned NGOs. They know something that we are starting to find out. And if you want a real country, you cannot have foreign-funded NGOs living in the same space as you.